I know what you're thinking. How dare you? Doom ruining gaming? I mean, get real. If anything, the Doom franchise lately has made gaming even better, and I'll agree with that all day, any day. So, why am I making such a brazen statement? We're going to talk about it. Now, I want to firstly clarify, this is not a negative outlook, by any means. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Doom Eternal is by far one of the best FPS games ever. It's definitely at the top of a lot of people's lists, including my own. Doom Eternal is a game that pushed many gamers and even more systems to their absolute limits, and even sent some past their limits. We're looking at you, Switch. So again, why make that statement? To start answering that, we have to go back in time a little ways. It was Christmas of 2017. I just got myself a Switch, and I was scrolling the eShop looking for any other game to play outside of Breath of the Wild in the meantime. I checked the sale page, and there it was, in all its glory. Doom. But this wasn't Doom as I knew it. This was more. Far from the pixelated, sprite-filled game I'd seen at a neighborhood friend's house when I was young, much more than the horror-driven Doom 3 that released when I was 7, this was a bigger, better, more advanced Doom. A Doom for an entirely new generation. And oh boy was I ready. From the first time I ripped open a gore nest and the enemy demons started spawning in, I was absolutely 100% hooked. Each blast from that shotgun felt strong, the glory kill system felt fast, powerful, and intuitive. From the start, this game had me wanting to smash skulls and break bones all day long. The health and ammo pickups were bright and colorful, scattered around each level, letting you know where they were when you needed them. The movement of the Slayer felt fast and fluid, like a race car with a shotgun. The demons, they hit you hard, and they moved around the map almost as fast and fluid as the Slayer did. Immediately I was addicted. I wanted to find the demons. I wanted to fight them head on, scrambling around the map, looking for any more bones to break and skulls to bash. This game was incredible. This game felt more incredible than anything I had ever played before, not just in the FPS genre. Doom 2016 came to me at a weird time in my life. I'd lived with my grandparents, 2 hours away from any of my friends, working at a small restaurant. I'd come home at 1 in the morning every night, scarf down whatever I brought home from work, and boot up my Switch for some ripping and tearing. It became a nightly ritual. In the daytime, I'd find myself craving the bloodshed and weapon booms from the super shotgun and the rocket launcher. The music was incredible too. I'd find myself humming or whistling tracks like BFG Division or Skull Hacker during my downtime at work, or just passing the day away while I was at the grocery store. This was more than just a game. This was like a drug, and I wanted more. And id Software delivered. As the game would progress on, the demons would get bigger, and so would the guns, meaning that the carnage and bloodshed you would ensue upon legions of hell felt even more powerful. Added suit upgrades made finding secrets easier, explosive hurt less, giving you larger health, ammo, and armor caches, meaning you could tear through the hellish hordes with relative ease for hours on end. But it wasn't just all the violence and bloodshed that drew me in. The story here was great as well. In the end, I was left with more questions than answers, and I was forced to wait for any bit of news from id Software on their next game. Several more playthroughs of the game would follow in my time, as well as me taking a liking to the Doom multiplayer. And yeah, every shooter at the time had a multiplayer, but this one was better. This one was faster, the never-ending sprint meant everybody was running around the map at the same speed. The weapons were far more fun than anything you'd find in the likes of a Call of Duty game. Eventually, I reached max Slayer level in the online, and began regularly topping online leaderboards in the team deathmatch category against some of the craziest players I would ever come across in online gaming in all of my life. E3 2018 rolled around, and on June 10th, the id team officially announced the sequel me and so many others were waiting for. Doom Eternal was in full development. The details we got were small but large at the same time. The id team was delivering the more myself and others wanted. More demons, more locations, more bloodshed. August rolled around. QuakeCon was here, and it was time for the big reveal. And oh my god, was it looking phenomenal. The Slayer looked even more badass with a giant blade strapped to his arm and a grenade launcher on his shoulder. More demons, bigger demons, new demons. I couldn't wait to blast away at the likes of the Arachnotron or go toe-to-toe with the new Marauder demon. Everything it showed us screamed bigger and better, and I couldn't wait. More info would trickle in over the coming months, and eventually we had a release date. November 22nd, 2019 couldn't come quick enough. The game would release on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and they were shooting for a day one Switch launch. I was ecstatic. As time rolled on, more details about the game would trickle out, building the hype. As the release date approached, id Software made an announcement. They needed more time. March 22nd would now be the new release date. No worries, more time for polishing. But then it got worse. A few weeks before launch, anyone who had pre-ordered a Switch copy received an email confirming cancellation and a refund. The Switch version was now TBA with no set timeline for a release. I was bummed. When launch day came, I picked up Animal Crossing as the world shut down due to COVID. At this point, I went radio silent on everything Doom. No reviews, no Let's Plays, no Facebook groups. The only wins of the game I got were that the Marauder was dividing the fan base. 9 grueling months would pass by, and on a random Wednesday in December, the announcement finally came. The game would launch on Switch on December 8th. I had that and the following 2 days off from work. I was so excited, my head almost exploded. The wait was long, but Doom is eternal, and my time had finally arrived. My girlfriend left for work, and I booted up the game for the first time and was greeted with the most badass intro video to a game I had ever seen in my life. It was time to rip and tear. Just like last time, you're thrown into a room full of zombies and blast away with a shotgun, the kickback feeling stronger this time than the last game. From the start, the game already feels better. The heads-up display is bright and colorful, and you know what you're here to do. Remember the Slayer's arm blade? It's a new addition to the glory kill system, giving you new ways to dismember demons. Almost everything the game wants you to know how to do is thrown at you right away. The chainsaw returns, as it always does, this time your handy tool for farming ammo from demons. Secrets make their return, giving you more depth to exploration, some of them more obvious than others. Giant cracks in walls let you smash through to find all manner of secrets, anything from hidden encounters, codex entries, extra lives, weapon upgrades, or even action figures like this one here. Player engagement is once again in full effect this time around. Walls and demons aren't the only thing the Slayer is going to be punching this time around. Giant blocks can be moved to open up new areas in the world and help with traversal. Pickups are brighter and more colorful than the last game, and weapon drones make their triumphant return to help the Slayer with upgrades to the arsenal to help blast away at the armies of hell. And just like that, the game sent you out on another epic journey across planets and dimensions with one rule in mind: kill or be killed. I spent the next 3 days glued to my gaming TV, volume turned up high while my girlfriend was at work. I hadn't long played a game like this since Skyward Sword released on the Wii in 2011. Everything the last game had built upon had been turned up to 15, and the knob subsequently ripped off. The Slayer's new double dash power and blood punch turns you into an even more formidable foe to the demons. If the last game had you feeling like a race car with a shotgun, this game had you feeling like a fighter jet. The addiction had begun again, and I couldn't fight it. The game would take us to epic new locations, from the familiar Hell on Earth to ancient Sentinel cities, frozen cult bases, the lowest pits of hell, and my personal favorite heavenscape of Urdak. This was a journey unlike anything I had undertaken before. The gameplay here was absolutely phenomenal. The game encouraged destroying new enemy weak points, things like an Aragnatron turret or the cannons of a Mancubus, bringing more destruction to demons with each weapon blast than the previous game. Improved mods made variation of gameplay feel great, giving you the option to tackle enemy hordes however you liked. The new hookshot on the Slayer's super shotgun turned the game absolutely sideways once I figured it out. Zipping around the map, latching onto a demon and setting it on fire before delivering a double-barrel blast at a devastatingly close range was the most satisfying thing I've ever experienced in a video game in my life. Not even halfway through the game, and already my expectations had been absolutely smashed. The gameplay loop id Software had developed was over the top, a fine-tuned balance of run, fly, shoot, chainsaw, repeat that pulled at every fiber of my ADHD brain like nothing else ever had before. Mick Gordon returned for the campaign and delivered an OST that topped 2016, adding an even bigger rush of gameplay engagement that sent my brain sky high with dopamine every single time I turned it on. Platforming and traversal played a much larger role this time around than the last game, breaking up arena segments by adding things like jump pads and monkey bars, falling platforms and spinning fire sticks a la Super Mario Bros., keeping you engaged even when there were no demons around to blast. Certain levels contained optional Slayer gates, unlocking them leading to a gore nest that transported you to an arena encounter that pushed you to your absolute limits, like a smaller version of a Masha level inside of a level, giving more variation to gameplay if you wanted a real challenge to make you break a sweat. Halfway through the game, and it was finally time to face the dreaded Marauder. A now infamous gaming foe, the Marauder completely divided the fan base. While some thought he slowed the game down and made it unplayable, others believed he was a worthy foe to match the Slayer. Even now, over 5 years after the game released, the Marauder is still incredibly divisive and occasionally spurs a good debate on the internet forums. I personally never had a problem with the Marauder. I don't understand it, and people who think the Marauder is too difficult obviously weren't around for max difficulty juggernauts during the Modern Warfare 2 era, or they just lived under a rock during these times. I watched the cutscene play and readied myself for the battle of a lifetime against this dreaded and incredibly divisive foe. I was absolutely shocked by the speed and agility of the Marauder, him dashing around the map, opening and closing the distance between himself and the Slayer almost as fast as I did. I landed a few shots, but ultimately was killed in the first encounter. I reloaded and went again, waiting for the careful window of the green flash as the Marauder opened up for an attack. A little bit of patience and careful timing, and before I knew it, I had taken him down in just my second encounter. To this day, I think the Marauder is a great addition to the enemy lineup, and I still don't fully agree with the hate. Y'all are just bad at the game. The back half of the game is truly incredible, though not to say the whole game isn't. Blowing a giant hole in Mars with the BFG 10K, acquiring the Slayer's Crucible from a dead Titan, all were huge events that left me in awe. While a huge portion of the overarching tale of the Slayer is hidden in the collectible codex entries, the story id Software was telling is a journey that stands out on its own next to the likes of great games like Skyrim or Diablo or Crysis. And how could I not be captivated? A battle between one man that spanned across time and dimensions to fight the forces of hell from conquering Earth and the known universe? You bet your ass I'm in for it. By this point in the game, the fully upgraded Slayer kit is on full show against the demonic threat, and hell is throwing their worst at you. Every demon you've encountered will be trying to stop you on your way through the last few levels as you try to reach the Icon of Sin. My favorite level in the game takes place towards the end, that being Urdak. Having journeyed through Hell, Mars, and Earth, raising the heavens only feels right in the end. The level designs really shine through around this time, as you should be familiar and somewhat comfortable with what hell is throwing at you, zipping around the map and destroying demons with ease as you make your way through the levels. The game really pushes you to the limit towards the end, making for the most fun in an FPS I've ever had in my life. Every tool is on full display, from freezing demons with the ice bomb, setting them alight with the flame belch, to quick switching between weapons to do maximum DPS. Everything you do is there to farm your resources to keep all of your engines running for the crazy ride you're on. After 3 straight days of playing, I'd finally make it to the Conmaker fight, awaken the Icon of Sin, and gotten some of the questions from 2016 I had answered. I was only one step away from my journey's end, and I was more than ready for the final showdown to stop the forces of hell. The Icon fight was amazing. To relive the fight from classic Doom 2 in a modern era just felt right with what id Software had set up in the last 2 games. My long-awaited journey's end I had been so eager for after beating Doom 2016 the first time was finally here. The game was a masterpiece, to say the least. Everything I had experienced in the last 3 days was more than worth the wait, far exceeding any expectations I had ever had. I had finished the game, but my journey had only really just begun. I knew how to play the game, but I hadn't fully mastered it yet, and my obsessiveness got the best of me. More replays, 100% runs, extra life mode. I bled the campaign for anything and everything it had outside of an Ultra Nightmare run. Every day for weeks I would come home and push the game and myself to its limits. To this day, my girlfriend still lets out a slightly annoyed, sarcastic remark about me playing it whenever she hears the low whistle and hum of the main menu music whenever I boot up the game. But it was more than just a game, it was a moment. In the thick of COVID lockdowns, gaming became critical to people's day-to-day lives as a form of connection and escape, and the Doom community banded together like none other. To better engage with fans and keep us playing, Doom director Hugo Martin and community lead Josh Boyle had started a live stream, with Hugo taking the helm and playing through the entire game over a few months' time. It was truly special to have a game company that cared that much about its fan base that it engaged with them on such a level. Each week after work, I'd tune into YouTube and hop on Discord to watch and talk all things Doom. I still remember the Pop-Tart and coffee live stream like it was yesterday. Each episode felt special, getting an inside look at all the hard work id Software had done, watching Hugo tear through the game and crack at points just like we all did, and getting info about upcoming game changes like balancing, DLC updates, upcoming physical merch, and everything in between. It felt really special to have game devs that cared that much about their fans to interact in such a way that no other company has achieved. id Software wanted to keep their players playing, and they listened to any and all criticism to improve the game and give players what they wanted to fuel the power fantasy. Another way the team brought the game further into the modern era, and as another way to engage players and keep them playing, Eternal featured weekly gameplay challenges, things like kill 10 heavy demons in the air or burn 100 fodder demons with the flame belch, that gave in-game experience points that rolled into monthly seasonal updates, each one bringing new cosmetic items for weapons, Slayer and Demon skins to customize your characters during play, and calling cards for your in-game profile to show your friends your hard-earned achievements. The dev teams also brought back fan-favorite master levels, ramped up versions of regular levels that pushed you to the limits, and introduced a widely discussed new multiplayer mode, Battle Mode, both of which we'll be discussing later on in the video. While the Ancient Gods Part 1 DLC launched before the game even came to Switch, it would be 6 months before it would launch on the Switch. Panic Button once again worked their magic, and I swear they even gave the entire game a small graphics update during this launch, but don't quote me on that. After the end of the base game, I was ready for more ripping and tearing, and hot damn would there be more. The Ancient Gods 1 brought 3 new levels with 2 new locales, the UAC Atlantica taking place aboard an ocean rig, and the Blood Swamps which brought us to the lowest cesspits of hell, and finally back to my favorite locale in the entire game, Urdak, for the Hold. UAC Atlantica was a great pace setter for what was to come. Verticality and level design was further implemented off of what had been established in the base game, as well as doubling down on encounters and spawns from demons throughout the entire game. The overall industrial design of UAC Atlantica had a welcoming, familiar feel to its atmosphere, a nice callback to the hallways and arenas of the Mars facilities from Doom 2016. Arena reuse was also brought in, another fun callback to gameplay that id had brought into the original Doom 2, having you circle back to areas you thought were clear only to be met by a new wave of hellish forces. The final arena from UAC Atlantica would set about the first cracks in my game playing. If the base game was already tuned to 15, the Ancient Gods 1 was tuned to 25. The amount of enemies being thrown at you from every angle is at times completely overwhelming. I will never forget the feeling of absolute terror that came over me the first time I saw 2 Marauders spawn in at the same time during the final arena. After waking up the Seraphim, it was time to head to the Blood Swamps to retrieve the Father's Life Sphere. Blood Swamps is the absolute standout of the DLC as far as atmosphere goes. The rot and decay coupled with the gnarled vines everywhere give a real classic Doom 2 hell vibe that I wish we got to see more of. The difficulty spike is again ramped up as new environmental hazards like giant gas spores and arena fog are implemented into the literal gauntlet of a level. Several new enemies appear throughout the DLC, the highlight here being spirit demons, ghostly apparitions of the Summoner demon from 2016. These vile beings take possession of any demon, doubling its speed, aggression, attack damage, and damage resistance from the Slayer's arsenal, and once they're vulnerable, they can only be killed by the microwave beam on the plasma rifle, leaving you feeling like a ghostbuster. This was the first time the game would really break me. Each encounter was more over the top than I could have imagined. It would take me 2 working days to beat this level, with about 6 hours each day after work. This was an absolute marathon of stress. No amount of stress has ever flowed through my body the way it did during the last 2 arena fights during this level, never knowing just when waves of demons would come to an end, except for maybe open lobby Splatoon 3 matches on the Switch, but that's a completely different story. The boss fight, the Trial of Malagog, alone took me about 2.5 hours to beat, nailing pot shots from across the arena while being bullied by every demon on the board. After defeating Malagog and finally reaching the Father's and Dark Lord's life spheres, the Slayer decides to not resurrect the Father, opting instead to crush his life sphere and then take the Dark Lord's life sphere instead. With the Dark Lord's life sphere in hand, it was finally time to head back to Urdak and wake the devil himself after fighting through the absolute hardest level in the entirety of the Doom Eternal game, the Holt. The first arena of the Holt introduced us to the final new enemy of this DLC, the Bloodmaker. These shielded foes can only be taken down with a headshot while they're in their attack animation, which is insanely hard if they hit you, as their attacks would slow player movement down. With the Conmaker dead after the events of the base game, the forces of hell are free to terrorize Urdak, and every encounter is again over the top. Almost every large-scale arena encounter comes complete with a spirit, making for the most stressful gameplay so far. And that's not even talking about the Slayer Gate. This level took me 3 days to beat the first time around, absolutely breaking me. I don't think I've ever screamed, "Oh good God," more during an activity, and I never thought my hands could move across the controller as quick as they did. But I refused to be beaten. I'd overcome every challenge so far. I wasn't going to let this stop me, but that doesn't mean I don't think they went too far. A double tyrant encounter with one of them being possessed by a spirit? Get out of here! After that nonsense was over, I finally got to take revenge on Samuel Maker, the true form of Samuel Hayden, for sending the Slayer back to hell at the end of 2016, in the absolute hardest boss fight I'll probably ever do in my life. Every skill I'd learned was put to the test against Samuel, juggling electrified floating eyes, 2 spirit-possessed demons, and a Bloodmaker, all while using the portals and elevated platforms of the arena to land shots between dodging them. After spending 4 hours doing that and taking a shower, I watched as the Slayer presented the Dark Lord's life sphere to the ancient gods. This is what it all came down to, a final showdown between the most feared being in hell and its terrifying leader, you. The Dark Lord took the same physical form as the Slayer. There is no clear definitive reason as to why, and several fan theories have persisted amongst the community. I'm one of those guys who believes Davoth looks like the Slayer because the Slayer is what the forces of hell fear most, so why wouldn't their leader look like that, you know? I took a much needed break from the game after that, and then was right back to it in preparation for the upcoming release of The Ancient Gods 2 just 2 months later. Once resurrected, the Dark Lord Davoth challenges the Slayer to one final showdown for the fate of reality. The first stop on the last leg of this journey was back to Argent D'Nur for the World Spear. The standout level of this DLC pack, World Spear, brings a Skyrim-y feel to its design, traveling through the abandoned streets of a once great warrior city now brought low. A new traversal mechanic was implemented here, the meat hook grapple point. This floating orb appears throughout areas, giving you a grapple target even if there's no demons around, letting you zip around the map through the air like Spider-Man. The id team also delivered a highly anticipated new weapon that had been talked about a bit during Hugo's live streams, that being the Sentinel Warhammer. Given to the Slayer by his once forsaken ally Commander Valen, this weapon replaced the Crucible Sword and could only be charged by performing 2 glory kills, destroying 2 enemy weak points, or a combo of the two. Whereas the Slayer's Crucible Sword was a one-shot get-out-of-jail-free card, the Sentinel Hammer acts more like a better ice bomb, stunning any demons in its wake and dumping ammo, making it a useful resource tool that felt welcome after the sword's absence in the Ancient Gods 1. With new weapon in hand, it was time to light the beacon of Minas Tirith, Argent D'Nur, and let all the remaining Night Sentinels know that the time had finally come to take the fight back to the heart of hell, Imora. After hitching a ride on a dragon and fighting through some of the funnest arenas to date, it was time to enter the World Spear, only to find out it wasn't a giant rock that had pierced the planet, but rather a spaceship for the Wraiths, who even after this game we still don't know what they are or where they came from or what their purpose is, a question plaguing me since Doom 2016. Taking the giant crystal from the ship, the journey would take us back to reclaimed Earth to locate the Gate of Davum and open the portal to Imora. The journey through reclaimed Earth is absolutely awesome. I always love when darker games let you run around in the daylight. Having beat back the invading forces from hell at the end of the base game, Earth is now an overgrown playground of city streets, flooded subways, and half-destroyed buildings that lend to a true post-apocalyptic feeling similar to that of The Last of Us or The Walking Dead. Several more new demons show their ugly faces this map. The Cursed Prowler, a green abomination that stuns the Slayer if hit from using mods in the dash, the curse only being lifted after bashing it with a blood punch, making it a major priority to take out as quick as it shows up. Then there was the Armored Baron, a real pain in the ass, much like the armored Cyber Demon. Armed with a flail on its hand that can only be shot off during its charge animation, forcing you into a careful timing window like fighting the Marauder or the Bloodmaker, destroying its armor in the process and leaving it open to actual damage. Or you can waste ammo dumping shots into its armor until it finally falls off. The highly fan-requested Chain Gunner from classic Doom 2 returns, this time armed with an impenetrable yellow shield, forcing you to attack it from behind, Whether it be remote detonation from the rocket launcher or a grenade, these enemies ended up being a huge pain in the ass in larger groups. The final new enemy of the DLC was the Stone Imp. Their skin made of rocks, these foes roll into balls and charge at the Slayer from all angles, and can only be killed by a swing of the hammer or by using the full auto mod on the combat shotgun. All of these new enemies add to the difficulty spike of the game, and coupled with the addition of the Sentinel Warhammer, the game feels incredibly well balanced and smooth. After reaching the end of Reclaimed Earth and activating the Gate of Devum, breaking the seal to Amora, it was time for the Slayer to take the fight to the heart of hell. The opening cutscene to Amora, with its endgame-inspired portal sequence, got me just as excited as the intro video to the base game, and I couldn't wait to finish the fight. All of the big arena encounters push the player to the absolute limit, each and every demon in the game playing a vital role in their efforts to stop the Slayer from reaching the end, all the while not feeling quite as frustratingly overwhelming as some of the encounters in Tag 1. As my journey came near its end, the gravity of it all started to weigh on me. Questions I had 4 to 5 years ago had been answered, or built upon enough to leave me feeling satisfied. Everything I had learned came into play. Every mechanic the game gave, every playstyle I could come up with, the playstyles I'd seen from different Doom tubers, nothing could stand in my way from running up on the devil himself and putting a stop to the destruction of reality. The entire level feels like a victory lap, the high level of skill needed to overcome every challenge on full display. The balancing feels perfect and finely tuned, a true masterpiece of gaming carefully curated over the last year and a half to deliver one of the all-time greatest gaming experiences. The final arena fight before reaching Davoth feels really special, as every single demon you encounter through the game will show up at some point to test just how well you've learned the game. Doom Hunters, Dread Knights, Carcasses, Marauders, Tyrants, Whiplashes, and everything in between. It's no holds barred as you rip and tear your way through one final arena before the climactic ending. After completing that arena, it was finally time to face Davoth for ritual combat to save the cosmos. And I wasn't just ready for a fight, I was ready for some goddamn answers. Like I said earlier in the video, most of the lore is hidden in the collectible codex entries, and the cutscenes are all skippable, but I live for the story that modern Doom has curated, and the lore drops we got during the Davoth fight went absolutely crazy. After a few rounds of some good ass beating, Davoth finally fills the Slayer in on why everything's been happening. Mirroring the Slayer's own quest for revenge, Davoth's attempts to conquer the cosmos stem from his overthrow by Vega, the Father, and drops the ball that he himself created the universe before he was betrayed by Vega and cast to hell. This again divided members of the Doom community, some feeling it was a convoluted mess that delved too far away from what Doom 2016 had set forth, but I thought it all wrapped up everything nicely in the grand scheme of the now connected franchise as a whole. The fight against Davoth itself was also divisive. It has a very stand-and fight feel to it, some calling it a glorified Marauder fight. The careful timing window, waiting for the green flash as Davoth charges for an attack to strike a blow, then dropping the hammer on him and laying rounds into his 6 health bars. It was a tad underwhelming of a fight, given how much the game overall had pushed you to fly around the map with the meat hook to then have the ultimate evil showdown be more grounded, but I still had a great time with it and found it a worthy battle in the end, and it looks like it was the foundational point for the playstyle that Doom the Dark Ages will have. The game ultimately concludes with the Slayer killing Davoth, destroying any and all demons across the universe, Earth, Urdak, Argent Venur, and more now free of any infestation. The Slayer's mission now complete, he is sealed away in a tomb bearing his mark by the ancient gods, closing out the modern Doom era the same way they started it in Doom 2016, a fitting end to an amazing saga that will stand out for the rest of time. On top of the main campaign and 2 DLC packs, Master Levels returned, bringing more single-player fun to the game. Just like their classic Doom counterparts, these Master Levels took already established levels and ramped them up even further. Encounters and areas that may have felt lacking in some regards upon replays now had added hazards and even more demons than before. The game launched with 2 Master Levels to start, Cultist Base and the Art Complex. Both were ultimately fun for what they were, larger hordes of demons during encounters and several new encounters in smaller areas like hallways, but they felt slightly lacking. The 4 Master Levels that would come post-launch were a crazy change of pace. Launching on the coattails of the Ancient Gods 1, the Super Gore Nest was the first to get an upgrade, and Jesus Cristo was it a Master Level. Not only were the demon spawns increased even more than the previous 2 Master Levels, tons of new hazards would come into play, forcing you into tighter movement and gunplay with the same level difficulty spike as the Ancient Gods 1. More tentacles, more fireballs and flame wheels, more toxic waste pools and purple goo, spinning lasers, anything the devs could think of that would fit in the game, they added it. The Super Gore Nest Master Level set a new standard for what future Master Levels would be like, taking about as long as the Ancient Gods 1 levels did for the first time I played through them. and made even more frustrating by the occasional game crash on my Switch, as it sounded like it was getting ready to take off into space. The Terrace Nabad master level would follow suit a while later, and by God, if I thought the Super Gore Nest master level was a headache, was I in for it this time. Terrace Nabad is already a parkour, traversal-heavy level, but the added walls that pop up in several arenas force you into some very interesting encounters that push you beyond what you think you're capable of by the time you're done eviscerating everything in sight. The final two master levels would launch at the same time during the game's last big overhaul, Update 6.66, that being Mars Core and World Spear. Being the last big update to the game, the devs sent us off with some of the craziest encounters to date. The Mars Core master level is without a doubt my favorite master level. The already established arenas with their new tweaks felt incredibly fine-tuned to the skill level I had developed over the last year and a half like so many others, and I consider this to be the pinnacle of what the game wants from you as a player. I had the best fun to frustration ratioed time with the Mars Core master level as compared to the others, and it's always what I pick to play when a friend comes over and wants to see what the game looks like, or when I want a real challenge when I'm playing my Switch in handheld mode. The World Spear master level is the complete opposite. It is so unbelievably hard that it's almost not fun. It took me more attempts than I can keep track of, quitting due to sheer frustration and rage, or the game deciding to randomly crash beyond the halfway point, and I'm not starting it back up again after that. I didn't finally beat the World Spear master level until the making of this video, skipping out on my regular Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals night to spend 4.5 hours in front of my TV sweating over this literal nightmare of a level. The dopamine flush I got after finally beating the level was enough to make me physically sick afterwards, and hand to God I'll never play it again. Hugo, you went too far. The post-launch master levels also came complete with new challenger rewards, weapon and player skins, as well as profile banners and icons rewarded for completing the levels on various modes like Ultra Nightmare, and newly added extra life and classic modes, as well as earning XP towards the seasonal and monthly challenges that Eternal had launched to keep players coming back. All of these customizations added a sort of completionist element to the game that kept me constantly grinding for months on end for XP to unlock them. All of the unlockable skins for the Slayer appear in-game and during cutscenes no matter what you choose, as well as applying during battle mode, with the demon customization applying only to the latter, much to the chagrin of some people in the community. They made it even more enjoyable and grind-worthy by adding super fun master collections, fun customization packs like a Conan the Barbarian set for the Slayer, and other nods to past games like Doom 64 and Commander Keen. And Demons got fun stuff like a Men in Black inspired set for the Archvile, a fun hot dog costume for the Mancubus, and a samurai set for the Marauder, and classic Doom pack for my favorite battle mode demon of all, the Revenant. Battle mode was Eternal's answer to multiplayer, stepping away from the norm of battle royales, team deathmatches, and arena shooters to give the world a 1v2 multiplayer that would pit a fully equipped player-controlled Slayer, minus the Ice Bomb, against two player-controlled demons and their summonable AI fodder. It was another divisive aspect of the game, much to the same vein as the Marauder, with it just being misunderstood by the general public at large, whereas the people who put excessive time into it like myself know otherwise. This was peak Doom Eternal playing. The resource management and combat loop are pushed to the absolute extreme as you juggle attacks from all angles as well as loot blocks, a new element added when your enemies are actually human, forcing some crazy gameplay changes to how I would usually handle the AI during a campaign level, offering wild new strategies to play, to something you think you've already figured out, only to learn something new again in the end. Battle mode had a best 3 out of 5 round structure, with the end of each round seeing all players unlock new upgrades, like quicker recharge times or more health and armor. Battle mode was unlike anything I've ever played before, and is personally more fun than any other FPS multiplayer I've ever played in my almost 30 years on this planet. After a solid while of playing demon duos, I finally decided to try my hand at the Slayer one day, determined to vanquish any who I came across. It took a decent time to figure out, managing both enemy demons' health bars in order to kill them both during the short window before a player would respawn. Having spent so much time playing as a demon at the start of my battle mode career, it gave me a great tactical advantage, as I had learned all strengths and weaknesses of both respective sides of the battle mode arenas, terrorizing just about any player I came across. While the peak meta game for battle mode was to quick swap the hell out of your enemies with the Ballista Super Shotgun combo, or Rocket Launcher Precision Bolt, or some variant combo of the four to do massive quick DPS, every once in a while I'd change it up and use the Combat Shotgun and Plasma Rifle. I was very cocky and it was very confusing to my enemies. Sending volleys of sticky grenades at my enemies that would blow up all around them, lighting up the player's screen was sure to disorient them and bring their health down a decent chunk, And I can't even begin to count how many times the heat blast saved me or just made for an awesome game win as I popped both player demons at the same time. Battle Mode also brought Friday Night Fights, a weekly live stream on Slayers Club Live that pitted streamers against each other in the Battle Mode arenas, duking it out for bragging rights and pure entertainment, and man was it a good time. When update 6.66 rolled in towards the end of the game's life, Battle Mode received a much needed update as well. Several balance changes and minor tweaks to quality of life were improved, and bigger changes were implemented, like the addition of a new map, a new player demon in the form of the Dread Knight, and a heavy overhaul that added a new online worldwide ranked leaderboard. This was when Battle Mode got real. After constantly topping lobbies in the Doom 2016 multiplayer, I was determined to take the top spot on the Slayer charts. The new streak-based win system had players stacking streak cards, with one streak card awarded after 3 match wins or a reset after 4 losses. What it came down to was skill. Skill and time, and I had the skill. I would come home after work to constantly see other Slayers pulling ahead in the streak count, and in the first and second seasons of Battle Mode 2.0 on Switch, I came up short and landed in second place globally. But I knew I could do better. When Season 3 rolled around, I got serious. I knew I could take the top spot, I just needed to spend more time playing. I became a total sweat, dropping all of my other hobbies, putting all of my other games on the back burner, and focused solely on Battle Mode. Over the course of the season, I slayed any and all who came across me, with the exception of some incredible demon duos who have my eternal respects, and when the season ended, I sat on top of the Slayer chart and had even earned more player streak cards than any player had yet on the Switch system. While it ended up being divisive, Doom Eternal's Battle Mode will forever stand out to me as one of the greatest multiplayers to ever grace gaming, accounting for more than half of my total playtime in the game. The fast-paced nature mixed with the tactical brilliance that you needed to master it made for the most fun I'll probably ever have in an online game, and I'll always look back on it with fond memories of the good times I had with the friends I made on and off of the game. Shout out to the Respawn Blues Discord, y'all are the greatest. The last big change that update 6.66 brought was the addition of an entirely new single-player mode, Horde Mode, a round-based wave mode that put the player to the test. The arcadey nature of the mode consisted of 3 missions, each made up of 3 arena combat rounds, a blitz round, a traversal round, and 2 unlockable bonus rounds, all of which would add to a high score that displayed on another online leaderboard. Starting you off with just the combat shotgun, the first arena round sets you up against 3 waves of demons, with one wave having high-value targets that when killed within a certain time limit would leave behind a bonus medallion that would increase your score per demon killed after being picked up and activated. After finishing a combat arena round, a new weapon would be added back to the Slayer's arsenal, and this was on a completely random roll, making each playthrough different by changing priority high-value demons and which weapons you had at your disposal to take care of them. Blitz rounds stuck you in a smaller arena from the level, and had you sling a certain amount of the same specific demon type in a certain amount of time. The faster you completed it, the more points you'd earn towards your high score, and unlock the optional bonus round if done in enough time. Traversal rounds put the player's platforming skills to the test, having you run through a quick obstacle course of jump pads, monkey bars, falling platforms, and so on as you collected coins like it was Super Mario Bros., the coins decreasing in value the longer you took to get to them. Horde Mode is a crazy test of the player's skills, seeing how well you can adapt to limited resources and how well your traversal and platforming skills are, in an effort to climb the leaderboard and unlock the master collections that came included. From a gameplay and directive standpoint, I completely understand what the devs were doing with this game's Horde Mode. It's a full display of everything the game offered in terms of play, each mechanic fully fleshed out and getting its respective time to shine through the various rounds, but it's just not what I personally expected out of a Horde Mode, and I just didn't find it as fun as playing the campaign or the DLCs. Around the same time as Eternal's Horde Mode, the Quake re-release received its own Horde Mode, and that was way more in line with what I had originally expected out of this from Eternal, and a large part of the community also agreed. With all of that being said, Doom Eternal's Horde Mode was a great addition to the game in the end, and I enjoyed it nonetheless for what it was. And that was the end. After update 6.66, it shifted focus towards the next game in the franchise, Doom the Dark Ages. There would be no more big updates, no more new master levels, no new battle mode arenas or demons. Several minor updates over time to bug fixes would follow, and all of the previous seasonal master collections were put on a timed reroll. The game was officially done. The game's lifespan of updates was roughly a year and a half, but given the state of the world with the COVID lockdowns, it somehow felt longer during its run. But looking back now, it doesn't feel like it was quite long enough. But all great things must come to an end, and though support for the game may have ended, Doom is eternal. To say that Doom Eternal ruined gaming for me isn't wholly true. I still enjoy gaming, but it hasn't been the same since. What id Software accomplished with Doom Eternal is undeniable. They caught lightning in a bottle, bringing the boomer shooter genre to the forefront of gaming culture and put a once-thought dead gaming franchise back in the headline. It inspired studios to bring us other awesome games like Warhammer Boltgun, Proteus, and Ultrakill. It's probably also to thank for bringing back other old id Software games into the limelight, as every Doom game, as well as Quake 1 and 2, have all received re-releases to mass appeal and critical acclaims. Eternal changed the gaming culture, and it changed the gaming for me. The level of engagement is unlike any other game I've ever played. Nothing holds my attention the way Eternal does. I can't sit and play games for long spans of time the way I did before Eternal, and nothing else gets the dopamine going in my brain the way this game does. It's the only game I'll play for hours anymore, usually taking up 4 to 6 hours as I run through a handful of my favorite levels, while other games just start to feel boring after an hour. I just don't get the same excitement out of the other games the way I do Eternal. There are a few games that come close, games like Hades, the Quake re-release, and No Man's Sky, but they all just end up lacking something that makes my brain go burr, and I don't know if any game ever will. I am extremely excited for Doom the Dark Ages, and I can't wait to see how the gameplay stacks up against Eternal, but it looks like it's going to be an extremely fun time, and I hope it hits that tickler spot in the back of my head the same way Eternal did. The impact Doom Eternal has left on gaming should be studied in schools, and it's changed gaming forever. It's ushered in a whole community of Doom-tubers who make incredible content, internet communities on Discord and Facebook that connect newer generation Doomers like myself with our forefathers from the 90s who experienced the same thrill with the original Doom games. It even got me to make my channel that you're watching this video on now. I'm not pointing blame on anybody for doing anything wrong, and I don't want anybody thinking this is a negative outlook. All I want to accomplish is to let my feelings out and talk about something that has left an impact on me for life. I love Doom Eternal, and I'll never stop playing it. It's given me a new appreciation for game design and for what makes a game good. I have a whole collection of awesome stuff from the franchise, including the eventual collector's edition for the Switch released from Limited Run Games, and action figures, and I can easily say Doom Eternal is my number 3 video game of all time behind Ocarina of Time and Skyrim, knocking Assassin's Creed Black Flag down to 4th. Thank you all so much for watching this if you made it this far. This is without a doubt the biggest personal project I've ever embarked on in years, and it took me 4 months to complete it. It really is just my way of applauding the team at id Software on creating one of the greatest games of all time. It means a whole hell of a lot to those of you who made it to the end, and I hope you enjoyed my gameplay at the very least if you don't agree with what I had to say. I hope you all return for my next big project in the future, whatever it may be. And remember, rip and tear, until it is done.